Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of TBH. We have another special guest. We have Pastor Donald Francis. Pastor, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's a delight to be here with you on this famous show.
Not famous yet, but get in there by God's grace. I almost called you Dr. Francis. I don't know if it's prophetic speaking, but
In due time, in process.
indeed. So, for those who don't know, Pastor Francis is my new pastor. He started pastoring at my church. Is it three
3 weeks.
ago?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm excited to have this conversation with him, get to know each other a little bit more, get to know what we're about, what we want to do together. I'm really looking forward to this partnership. But I want to start here where I always start. So, who is Donald Francis?
All right, so let me share with you my manifesto. So I am a passionate, loving person who sees my purpose as helping others to reach, to realize, and to maximize their full potential as they grow in the purpose for which God has called them, and to be fully used up for that purpose. And so my preparation, both academically and personally, has been toward this goal to help others to achieve their highest potential. And of course, I'm a married person. My wife is Popsan, an awesome partner in ministry and partner in life, an educator and women's coach.
I actually met Popsan in person before I met you. I remember she was here in New York 2019, and she
Right.
had a book. And as an author myself, I know how books are. So I said, you know what, let me go and support her. So I went and bought a copy.
Excellent, excellent.
And then it was just so I've been at Dunamis. This November is going to be 3 years, and we had our former pastor, which is Dr. Russell, and then he retired, and then Dr. Smith became the interim, and then they were trying to get a pastor. And then I remember when I heard that it's going to be Donald Francis, it's like, I know Donald Francis. From back home, I always knew the name, I'd always see you. So let's go back. We went to the same university, but different times. When were you at NCU?
I started NCU 2005 and I graduated 2009.
2019. 2009. That would have been right before I went there. I went there January of 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would have
so you would have been there when my wife was there, toward the last semester.
Oh, she graduated 2010?
Yes, the last, yeah.
Yeah, so we would have been there one semester together.
Right.
Okay. After NCU, what was next?
After NCU, I entered pastoral ministry in the Central Jamaica Conference, where I served as intern pastor and then district pastor, senior pastor of various districts there. I started ministry at the Spanish Town SDA Church. Neville Barrett was the senior pastor at the time and did a lot of work with the young people there. Then I moved on to Linstead, then Tollgate. Then I became the pastor for the Spaldings district. And then I was ordained in 2015 and became the pastor, and I was the pastor of the Racecourse district. And after that, I felt the call of God to move to another place and to finish my preparation for ministry. And so I left and I went to the seminary in Michigan, Andrews University, the SDA Theological Seminary there, and finished up in 2020. And then I went to Canada for some time. Then,
And you're here with us.
Yeah.
Tell me, for my own understanding, what exactly does being ordained mean?
Oh, ordination is the church's stamp of approval and a recognition of your gifts and your competencies in ministry, in terms of giving you full responsibility to execute all the functions of the church, all the or everything that has to do with the church. Before you're an ordained minister, you are limited to your district. An ordained minister is ordained to the ministry of the world church. Yeah.
Got it. All right, backtracking even before that, what made you want to become a pastor in the first place?
I like that question. That's an excellent one. So when I was 8, that's when I felt the call of God upon my life to be a minister. In fact, my mother was never a Seventh-day Adventist. My mother says she was a Baptist, but she didn't go to church. But that particular day, she gathered all of us. I think there were, let's say, 8 of us, not 8 of us, about 7 of us at the time. And she just gathered us and said, we are going to church. That was the Adventist church in the area. And a pastor was preaching there. Jeremiah Burrell was preaching there at the time. And when I went to the church, I felt this voice in my head saying, go get baptized and become a pastor. And I went to the altar. I could not read at the time. I was 8. And they gave me some cards and all of that. And I told them that the thing in my head said, get baptized and become a pastor. And that vision that was buried in me, that seed that was planted in me, has never left me, kept growing and growing. And even when I was in high school, I wanted to go into sciences. I did the sciences in high school. And I wanted to become a scientist at one time, and then all of those things. But that seed kept germinating, and I could not resist.
So that was the first time you were going to church?
It was the first time, yes. It was the first time my mother was going to an Adventist church as well. And she's never been back until my father was getting baptized. And then when she was getting baptized, and then she became an Adventist.
Wow. So wait. So the first day you went to church, the first sermon you heard, it was that impactful that you're like, yo, I want to be baptized and I want to be a pastor.
Absolutely. I didn't know what pastors do at the time, but the boy said to me, do this. And I think it was a week or 2 after that, I became baptized. My mother opposed it, but my father was very inclined because he was a more religious guy. And that's the amazing thing is that I baptized my father, I baptized my mother, I baptized my brothers, and most of the persons in my family became Seventh-day Adventists as a result of me coming at it.
Wow. Explain that feeling of baptizing your mother, baptizing your father.
It was one of the greatest moments of my life. In fact, my father was baptized in 2006. I went back to that very church when I was in undergrad, and I preached a crusade, and he said that he wanted to be baptized. I was not licensed to baptize anybody at the time. So the pastor baptized him. I was crying, man. I was in tears and I excited for my daddy, My preaching led him to Jesus Christ. And then I think it's 2015, my mother indicated that she wanted to be baptized. And so the pastor called me and asked me to come and baptize her. And I think it was that very year too, I baptized my brother. Years before that, I had led my brother and his wife to Jesus Christ. So the feeling of satisfaction to know that out of the mud, God plucked one, only one, and that one was able to influence the leadership of God in the lives of his family members.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. All right, talk to me about when you went to Andrews. What was that experience like?
No, that was an interesting journey because from 2012, my wife always wanted to leave Jamaica at the time. And I felt the call to leave at the time, but I was a little on the worried side to wonder how I'm going to take care of my wife. At that time, we were building our home, we had mortgage. I was wondering, how would I take care of my wife? I didn't get a call to pass anywhere to go to school without knowing, and then you'll incur expenses in the foreign land. I was worried. So in 2017, I got a dream, a vision. And God said to me, it is time for you to leave. And all the concerns I had, God made provision for them in the dream. So I got up in the morning and said, honey, we are going. She says, well, I've been ready. So if you say go, we are ready to go. And so we left 2018, and the journey at Andrews has been a tremendous one. I have seen where God provided every step of the way. I can make this confession on your show. I have never been more rich than when I was at Andrews University.
Wow.
Even when both of us were in Jamaica employed, I was not that rich. I was never in need. God provided in abundance. In fact, my blessings were so much in abundance that we were able to assist other students who couldn't pay their school fee to help them to pay. We were able to buy stuff for people, food. People who came to the campus and didn't have family. Our home was the feeding place for these individuals, and just to learn and interact during that time. And then most of my time at Andrews was spent traveling, always on the road. Sometimes I took 3 weeks from class going to preach the gospel at places, and then I have to stay up and I catch up on my schoolwork. And the amazing thing is that I had never failed one subject. And I graduated with summa cum laude as a result of God's blessings.
How I don't want you to put people on the spot, but how open are, like, I guess, lecturers to you, like, taking time off to preach and that kind of thing? Is that something that they welcome, or?
I had to give a pitch, right? So because there is a policy at the school that if you were to miss, I think, 2 days of class, then you'd fail the class. And obviously I was missing 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
But what happened before the semester starts, I would go to the professor and indicate to them that I'm not a sponsored student. And this is how I generate my income to pay for my tuition. And so they were very understanding. Some of them, gave me the coursework, and I was able to do it and submit it. And sometimes I was able to do my exams before I leave. So I had to study in advance. But they were very good professors. Only one of them gave me a challenge, and after a while, he said, "Okay, go ahead and do your thing." Yeah.
Nice. Canada, how did that come about?
When we left Jamaica in 2018, we were already in the process of becoming residents of Canada. So I am a person like this. I'm a strategist. So I always have plans plus plans.
Right.
And all of my plans are A plans. I don't believe in B plan B. They're always A plan. So I was saying, I'm coming to the US. My wife loves Canada. So in any case, we have a home if we don't want to go back to Jamaica. And so we applied and we got through. So when I landed in Michigan, about a month after that, we got our approval that we were now residents of Canada. And so the October of 2018, we went over, had our landing, got our PR cards. And so we were traveling from 2019 throughout my seminary years every other week, because we also assisted pastor in a church in Brampton, Northwest Brampton. Beautiful church. They have assisted me so much. And Pastor Wallen O'Connor, blessed man of God. And so I did that for over a year, every week. And for 5 months, when pastor left to go to another church, there were no pastors, and I had to go there every week. So can you imagine driving 7 hours, sometimes 9, 10 hours if it's snowing every week to go to Canada to minister? It was tremendous on the health, but God, it took us through, and it was a rewarding experience.
All right. Tell me about the I don't know if it's the call, the email, the news that you're coming to Dunamis. Tell me about that.
What a thing. No, that's an interesting journey. So my plan when I was in seminary is that I would do all of the courses that I could do on the campus, because there were some courses that you can only do on campus, and others you can do remotely. So my plan was to do all of those that I should do on the campus, and then those that could be done remotely, I would do them from Canada, because I had no interest of working in the United States. Not because I didn't like the United States, but because, we said Canada would be our home, and my wife is comfortable there. So Before I graduated in 2018, I was offered some jobs by conferences within where I'm now working, and others from other places. And I said, no, I wanted a break. I wanted to refuel. Uh, Other conferences in 2020, when I was graduating, invited me to work with them. One of them, I told him I can't. And the president called me himself, invited me to another interview, gave me the job, and I said, no, I can't because I don't have any interest in working in the US. So now I had gotten in a little chaplaincy duties once per week at a place because I was now waiting on a call from Canada. And then I was praying, and then I came over in 2020 to inspect my car because my car is a New York vehicle.
Okay.
And when I was going back to Canada, the immigration people and the custom people said, no, you can enter, but the car can't. So for 1 year, my car was in the US at my friend's house. And I was saying to myself, because I was supposed to change my license to Canadian license.
Mhm.
And I said to my wife, for some reason, I feel I'm going to need my US license. I don't feel I need to change it. Something is happening. And then over time, we begin to feel this impression that we need to come to the US. And I'm saying, Lord, this is confusing. And by this time, I was being interviewed to be the director of chaplaincy and spiritual care at a major hospital in Canada. No, when I looked at the salary, preacher, the salary was twice what I would get as a senior pastor in the US, and more so in Canada. And the benefits, remember now, the beginning salary that I was going to get was almost twice a senior pastor salary. And there were levels for me to grow. And then I'm doing a doctoral degree in psychology. I could practice my psychology there. I could get my hours in and all of that. So it was an ideal situation. At the same time, I received a call from Dr. Wellington, saying, send me your resume. So I say, okay, God, what are you doing? So now I shared the thing with my wife, and we were now in limbo. So I said, God, here's what is going to happen. Whichever one offers me first, I will take. Now, I was in interview and the process with the Canada job, the chaplaincy job for, I think, over a month or so. Now, by the time Dr. Wellington called me, the interview was the other week for the New York job for the ministry. And by the time I did the interview, a few minutes, like 10, 20 minutes after that, they called me to say I got the job. When they told me that I got the job to come to Greater New York. The day after, the chaplaincy offered me an official offer letter and asked me to take time to consider it. Now, when we prayed and we asked God, what should we do? I felt this burden that I was not finished. I wasn't finished in ministry. There is some more that I need to give. And I said to my wife, the chaplaincy job looks appealing and it's more comfortable for us. All right. We would have everything at our disposal without having to spend a lot of money. But I'm not finished yet. There's more for me to give. And I said to her, if I had given all of that when I was in Jamaica or even in Canada, I would just take the chaplaincy work because I would have given. And so we prayed, and God said, US. I spoke to some wise counselors in my life, and they said, well, it seems as though God is pushing you to the US. I said, no, God, I don't want to go to the US because it's going to interrupt my plans. And then we accepted the call. So the people at the chaplains, they called me and said, do you want us to up our offer? Do you want more money? I said to them, I would want more money, but it's just that I can't take it. And so that's how we got to come to the US. But we didn't know we were coming to Dunamis. So here's how that works out now. So there were 5 churches. I think about 3 of those churches asked for me to come and pastor them, but they were denied. So after we were employed, there were 5 pastors were employed. After we were employed, nobody knew where they were going. But I started to fast and pray. There was one particular church I didn't want to go though. Not because it was a good church, But because there were some circumstances, yeah, I didn't want to. So I said, all right, God, except that one, I don't want to go. So I was in prayer. Now, my wife and I, we took a week of prayer session. And while we were praying, God dropped in my spirit and he says, Dunamis. I didn't know Dunamis Church enough. I didn't know where it was. I've never been there. The only time I knew of Dunamis was when I was preaching at Ebenezer. And Dr. Russell, who was the pastor at the time, came over and brought greetings and said that he's a pastor for Dunamis. I didn't know where it was, although I preached in Brooklyn so many times. So it dropped in my spirit and I shared it with my wife. And my wife says, I feel that's where God wants you to go. So then Dr. Willington called me and he said, Preacher, I have news for you. The committee has voted to place you at a church. Are you ready for the news? I said, yes. He says, well, you know, we were thinking of sending you another place, but the Spirit says that we should send you to Dunamis. He said to me, are you comfortable with that? I say, I'm significantly comfortable because that is where God told me in prayer and my wife that we are going. He says, well, the Spirit moved. That's where you're going. And that's why I ended up at Dunamis.
Wow. Wow. All right. So from my perspective, right? As I said earlier, Dr. Smith was our interim, but Dr. Smith has, all of his responsibilities, and he was present. He made his presence felt, but it was also evident that he was doing other things, and
right.
So he was juggling that. And then, as I said earlier, the news came that you'll be a new pastor. So I'm like, all right, somebody young, somebody vibrant, somebody like, all right, let's go. I remember I reached out to you or to Popsign or whatever. We had some dialogue. And from even before you were here in the country, I remember you started to ask about like what's the temperature of the church and the young people and all this. And you later on I learned that you did surveys, you learned about the landscape, the community. And that was just so refreshing for me to see that even before you're here, like you're thinking, you're having vision, you're planning, and trying to get the church to where it needs to be. So talk to me about like what was your mindset coming here and trying to get things how you'd want them to be rolling.
Thank you for that. So from the moment I discovered where I was going, I started to look at the website. I went on a government census to do a psychodemographic study of the area, the people's mindset. I also had friends in the area and I did a little sample survey to see what the mindset was, the perception of the church. What I wanted to see was how the church was seen and how effective the church was in its ministry to the community. And if anybody even know that the church was there. And then to see how we could vision a place where people would want to be connected to. And a major part of any church vitality and power is its young people. So I started to think in that line. And that is why I began to ask those questions about young people, because if you don't have young people, your church is practically dead.
Yep.
So when I discovered the deficit with young people in the church, and there were some other things that were evident based on watching online, I began to pray. In fact, it was like a month of fasting my wife and I went on. And I have some prayer partners who normally pray with me when major decisions are to be made. And I consulted them and prayed. And the Lord began to open my mind as to what needed to be done in coming forward and coming here, and how to awaken that interest in the brethren and how to awaken a desire for more. So that is what my mindset was coming here.